Welcome back to another episode of The Struggle. Hold on, we're trying to get ourselves set up on Instagram. So first things first, I want to apologize for if I seem a little bit lethargic. Hold up, give me 1 second here. I understand why Instagram just does not want to work with me today. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Yeah, that's kind of weird, but let me see. Take that off of airplane mode. See if that works. Yeah, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty starting. Yeah, okay. Just start the live, god dang it. All right. Well, it looks like we won't be posting on Instagram today. We seem to be having a lot of technical difficulties. We're having a lot of storms and stuff. Let me just go ahead and just refresh the app. Let's try it. Let's see if that works. If not, I might have to update the app. Because the way that I kind of set up the show, because since they can't really see or hear the music, no internet connection. Okay. So thanks to Apple, we're just going to have to go ahead and do ourselves a nice hard reset. Volume up, volume down, power. And let's see if that corrects it. Because we want our friends on Instagram to see this as well. But yeah, so I want to apologize before we get into anything because I've been on a fast. So yeah, it's a struggle today. So if I seem a little bit out of it, if I seem a little bit low energy, if I seem a little bit lethargic, that's why. I'm 3 days in on a fast, and it is kicking my butt. Like it is. And I've done fast before. I don't see how Yeshua and Moses and all the other prophets, I don't see how they were able to fast 40 days and 40 nights. I do not see, because I'm on 3 days and I'm just like, oh my God. It is a killer right now. Like it is really taking me out. I've been going through like waves up and down, hungry, not hungry, hangry, not hangry, burst of energy, no burst of energy. So it's definitely been humbling because it is, oh my god. Let me see. Let's see if we can get this up and started now. All right. Sorry about that. We are finally live up on Instagram. So yeah. So as I was saying, for those of you on Instagram that were not able to witness, but I've been fasting, so it's been I've just been doing water, electrolytes, electrolyte packets, tea, unsweetened tea, just regular. Like I got the loose leaf herbal tea, and of course, my favorite coffee. But this is like just straight black, no honey, no sweetener, no creamer, no sugar. So, and I didn't realize how bad of a sweet tooth that I had, or how much of an addiction that I had to sweets, because I normally don't eat sweets. I'm not a real candy person. Of course, I love my peanut M&Ms, which I'm not even going to talk about right now, but peanut M&Ms and M's and stuff like that, so of course, my Starbucks. It's definitely been a struggle. So, but I'm not going to make this episode of the struggle about my fasting and my sweet addiction. Today's episode of the struggle is going to be on Exodus 21. Let's go ahead and get this screen up here. Let me see. So let me go ahead and get the comments open. So yeah, if we're streaming live on YouTube, because I've been banned on Facebook for about 20 some odd more days, we're going live on Instagram. So if you guys want to be a part of the show, please feel free to tune in. If you guys are on Instagram and you guys want to see the slides, please you guys can go over to YouTube and you guys can see all the slides. I literally typed it out word for word from the Bible, and I broke it down. I don't have any, well, not too many footnotes. I don't really put my comments in there. I just put what the scripture says so that way we all can see it, because it keeps me honest and it keeps you guys and it educates all of us. And if you guys see something within the scripture, please, add it in the comments box. Say, hey, this doesn't make sense, or hey, can you explain this? And because this is supposed to be a conversation. So, and that's what we're shifting towards. And also, I want to thank my friend Alfonso Rachel for last week's episode on the Ten Commandments. Um I really appreciate his help on that episode. He really expanded my mind on it. Expanded, even though we kind of diverged in the conversation a bit, but that's what good conversation sounds like. You know, there were things that I wasn't really sure about. I asked questions. I asked his input on things. He backed it up with scripture. He was asking me things, and I backed it up with scripture. So I would say whenever we're having these biblical conversations, make sure that we are backing it with scripture. I mean, I understand, and I've done it on this show, and I'm probably going to keep doing it. It's okay for you to correlate what the Bible says with with life experiences, because in the Bible what we're learning about is people and their life experiences, and their life experiences actually add to the Bible. So I'm never going to be one of those people that sit here and say, "Oh, well, you can't mix your life experiences with scripture." No, I mean, it if that would help, because to me God is in everything. Yahovah is in everything. And sometimes, even for me, sometimes when I look back, hindsight 2020, I realize in those moments that God is really talking to me. So that's why I'm not one of those people that say, oh, well, you can't use your life experiences or the experiences of others to make sense of the Bible. I mean, because if that was the case, why are we getting life experiences from Moses, from Joseph, from Jacob, from Abraham? Why are we getting all these life experiences? How they thought, how they felt, what their behavior, the outcomes, the struggles. So I'm not going to be entirely, now, if you lean solely on your life experiences to make sense of it or to justify your belief in the Bible, then I think we can have a civil disagreement on that, because yeah, you can't make the word, the Bible, the Torah bend to your lifestyle to accommodate your lifestyle, because we see a lot of people doing that, and Zoe and I kind of talked about that. So I'm gonna get into this. So of course we are using, and I don't care what Bible you guys are using, even though Zoe kind of got on me last episode for the Freemasonry, but hey, we're free to disagree, and I appreciate him, and it even helped me kind of get some further clarity on my walk. So hey, use whatever Bible is at your disposal. And if you don't have one, please go buy one today. I would say first, buy one that you can read. Because if you can't read it, you can't really enjoy it. And then as you get better, as you explore more, as you begin to develop that hunger for the word, the hunger for the knowledge, the hunger for the truth, then you can expand like I have, and you can get different versions. Because at least that we first got to be grounded first. You know, get the word in. Don't be so consumed about, well, this translation, that translation. Get one that you can, the one that you can ultimately digest. If it's the NIV, get the NIV. If it's the King James version, get it. If it's a new King James version, get it. Me personally, like I've said on this episode, or well, many episodes for this study, we're using the Messianic Jewish Family Bible, the Tree of Life version, the TLV version. But I also use the Hallelujah scriptures for my own personal reading. So I have one Bible for study. I have one Bible for my own personal reading. My Messianic Jewish Family Bible, I mark up. I highlight in it. I do all that stuff in it. You have different versions out there, and use some extra biblical sources. Dictionaries and stuff like that. I think Zoe says he uses Bible Hub. I use Bible Gateway. If things don't make sense to you, ask questions. Go to use the internet constructively, but be careful and make sure you're able to discern from the noise. All right, so we're going to get into this. Chapter 21. All right, let me go ahead and get my. All right, so I must have made that slide, but you don't have to worry about that. That is uh Parashat. What is it? Let me see. Parashat Mishpatim. Let me see. I forgot to look that up. Parashat Mishpatim. Okay. Okay, so Mishpatim means these are the rules. Should have put that in there. Had to Google that real quick. And like I said, I am terrible when it comes to Hebrew. I am horrible. I'm still learning myself. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this reading. Let me go ahead and wet my whistle. All right. Now these are the ordinances which you will set before them. Let me go ahead and take the Edmo part down because I understand that's very distracting and sometimes it covers up the words. Sorry, like I said, I'm a little bit lethargic from fasting, so I don't have my wits about me too tight. All right, so now these are the ordinances which you will set before them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve for 6 years, and in the seventh, he is to go free without payment. If he comes if he comes in by himself, he is to go out by himself. If he was married, then his wife will go out with him. If his master gave him a wife and she bears him sons and or daughters, the wife and her children will be her masters, and he will go free by himself. But if the servant plainly states, I love my master, my wife, and my children, and I will not go out free, then his master is to bring him to God, or Elohim, because I don't really care for that term God. Um, bring him to Elohim, then take him to a door or to the doorpost. His master is to pierce his ear through with an awl, and he will serve him forever. Now, of course, as we stated, as Zoe and I talked about in the last episode, slavery was definitely a big topic. People like to say, "Oh, well, the Bible justifies slavery and all this other stuff." The Bible does not, and the Bible does not justify forced servitude. When you, like it says, when you buy a Hebrew servant, that means this is someone who is a criminal, someone who owes a debt, someone who commits, someone who's fallen in some way, shape, or form. And it's a way for you to redeem them. They come, they work for you, they serve you, but also it also means like a servant, an employee of such. You know, because servant and slave are in Hebrew are synonymous. Like it's the same word. So, but it said if you see right here, it says he is to serve 6 years, and in the seventh year he goes free without payment. So that means like if I owe, case in point, I hate to put Zoe in this, but let's just say Zoe comes on the show, he wants to charge me a rate. I'm unable to pay the rate. So therefore I'm in debt to Zoe for, I'm in debt to Zoe. So because I cannot pay the debt, I'm pretty much indentured myself to him for 6 years. But on the seventh year, I'm supposed to go free. My debt is forgiven. I don't owe him anything. Pretty much he reaped the benefits of my payment through my labor. So people try to say, "Oh, well, Bible justifies slavery," but it doesn't justify lifelong slavery. And also, what we saw in Genesis is, I mean, not Genesis, what we saw in Exodus 20, where you don't, there's treat, like, you cannot just treat someone badly. You have to treat them with respect. You cannot work them 7 days a week. You cannot work them. Even beasts of burden need a day off. So there's rules and regulations to being a master to someone. So, and also, it says right here, but if the servant plainly states, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master will bring him to Elohim, then take him to the door or the doorpost. His master is to pierce his ear with an awl, and he's to serve him forever. So this is by choice. So interesting to think. A lot of these dudes walking around with their ears pierced are slaves. I mean, in the biblical sense. All right, we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna try to keep my side comments to the end. I'm just gonna, because this chapter is very wordy, so I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read it straight out. If a man sells his daughter to be a maidservant, got all these notifications on my screen. She is not to go out free as a male servant, as male servants do. If she does not please her master who has selected her for himself, let me, this screen is way too big. All right, because I felt like I was like looking all over the screen. All right, select. If she does not please her master who has selected her for himself, then he is to allow her to be redeemed. He will have no power to sell her to a foreign people, seeing as he has dealt deceitfully toward her. If he betroths her to his son, he must give her the rights of a daughter. If he takes another wife, he is not to diminish her food, her clothing, or her marriage rights, meaning sex. If and other things, but sex is definitely a big one. If he does not provide these three to her, then she is to go free without payment. Whoever strikes a man so that he dies must surely be put to death. But if he did not hunt him down, yet God caused it to happen, then I will appoint for you a place where you may run. If a man presumes to kill his neighbor with craftiness, you are to take him from my altar and put him to death. Anyone who strikes his father or his mother must surely be put to death. Anyone who steals a person and sells him, this is the slavery part. Anyone who steals a person and sells him is found with or is found with him under his hand must surely be put to death. Whoever curses his father or his mother must surely be put to death. If people quarrel and one strikes another with a stone, this is referencing back to Cain and Abel, or with his fist, and the other does not die but lies in bed, if he rises again and walks around with his staff, then the one that struck him, he will be cleared. But he must pay for the loss of his time and help him to be thoroughly healed. If a man strikes his male or female servant with a staff who dies by his hand, he must surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if the servant gets up in a day or two, he will not be punished, for he is his property. If men fight and hit a pregnant woman so that her child is born early, yet no harm follows, the one who hits her is to be strictly fine according to what the woman's husband demands of him. He must pay as the judges determine. But if any harm or if any harm follows, then you are to penalize life for life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, blow for blow. And in that verse, they were talking about miscarriage. If a man strikes the eye of his male and female servant and destroys it, he must let him go free for the sake of his eyesight. If he strikes out his slave's tooth, he must let him go free for the sake of his tooth. If an ox gores a man, or let me just backtrack. You know what? I'm going to press forward. If an ox gores a man or a woman so that they die, the ox must surely be stoned, and its meat is not to be eaten, but the owner of the ox will be cleared. If the ox was given to goring in times past, and a warning has been given to its owner, yet he has not kept it pent up, and it kills a man or a woman, then the ox must be stoned, and the owner must also be put to death. If instead a ransom is placed on him, then he is to pay for the redemption of his life whatever is demanded. Whether it has gored a son or a daughter, this rule is to be applied to him. If the ox gores a man or a male or female slave, he is to pay 30 shekels of silver to their master, and the ox is to be stoned. If one uncovers a pit or digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or donkey falls in, the owner of the pit must pay compensation. He is to give money to the owners. Let me see. I got this little thing up. To the crap. I hate when they got these little things up. To the owner, and the dead animal will be his. If one man's ox hurts another ox so that it dies, they are to sell the live ox and divide the price. They are also to divide the dead one. Or if it becomes known that the ox was given to violence in times past, its owner has not kept it pent up, he must surely pay ox for ox, and the dead animal will be his own. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and kills it or sells it, he is to pay 5 oxen for one ox, 4 sheep for one sheep. And I believe that is it. So, oh, they got rid of my footnotes. I don't understand why my footnotes ain't here. There we go. So yeah, so Elohim means gods, prince, or judges. Leviticus 21 is talking about money. Uh, then we're talking about miscarriage, and then they got traditional Christian texts. So let's go back. So first thing we're talking about slaves. And slavery is a really big topic, especially for sake of humor. It's Black History Month. I'm on the fence of Morgan Freeman, where I don't really care for Black History Month because how can you relegate one's history to a month? I mean, what month is Jewish History Month? What month? I mean, now that they're making all these months, I swear every time I turn around, you got November as Indigenous Month, you got May as Hispanic Americans Month. You know, it's getting ridiculous. So, but because it's Black History Month, of course, you're going to see all these documentaries, you're going to see all these posts, you're going to see all these news stories and all this other stuff about slavery. Slavery. Slavery was bad. Slavery was the greatest sin on American soil. But as we see here, and then people going to sit here and blame Christianity, even though we have rules in Exodus, we have laws in Exodus about slavery. You know, you cannot abuse your slaves or you have to set them free. Of course, Obviously, the 1% who owned slaves, because let's not act like everybody, all every white person ever in America during slavery owned slaves. Let's not act like every black person that was born during the time of slavery was a slave. In fact, we actually had black people who owned slaves. So we're not going to sit here and get into this back and forth about, well, the blacks treated their black slaves different than the white slaves, than the whites treated their slaves. We're not going to get into that. I'm not interested in cherry picking history. I'm not interested in going toe for toe. But one thing I can say is that the Bible is very clear about the treatment of someone who is your servant. You cannot abuse them, or you have to let them go. You cannot mistreat them, or you have to let them go. And you cannot make them slaves for the rest of their lives. It's only for 6 years, because on the 7th year they've paid their debt, they can go free. The early days in America, we had such a thing called indentured servitude, which indentured servitude, it was just that, 6 years of service. Now, of course, historically speaking, one of the very first slave owners in America, uh, crap, in the Virginia court case Johnson v. Kasor, was that you had a black Angolan male by the name Anthony Johnson, uh, who had an indentured servant, and I believe his name was John Kasor. And then you had a previous one before that was John Punch. Both of these men were black, and Johnson v. Kasor, both men were black. And Kasor was indentured to Johnson. Johnson tried to was mistreating Kasor, and was trying to lie about his indentured servitude and try to get more work out of him. Unfortunately, the Virginia court, the colonial Virginia court at the time, approved Johnson's claim, and made John Kasor a slave for the rest of his life. Which again, you know, but that was during the colonial times. So the Bible's very clear. So let's not blame Christianity let's not blame the Bible, let's not blame God for the way fallen human beings act, because obviously, in it says right here, it says right here, if he strikes out a slave's tooth, he must let him go free for the sake of the tooth. Even if, like, say, even if like you got a slave and he's a mouthy slave, and you punch him in the mouth and his tooth flies out, hey, you gotta let him go. Gotta let him go. He's free. So let's not sit here and act like the Bible is the problem. The Bible's not the problem. It's people. People are the problem. People have always been the problem. We live in a fallen state, and people try to cherry pick the Bible to make it seem like it is what it is. And of course, you're going to have some people that are going to sit there and say, well, they never looked at black people as human beings. They looked at them as property. Okay, I'll humor you in that, because even if that were the case, they looked at them as animals and beasts of burden and property, the Bible still has verbiage on how you are to treat a beast of burden. You cannot abuse a beast of burden. Now, if a beast of burden was to kill someone, you are responsible for that beast of burden. Therefore, you have to put that beast of burden down, and you might have to pay a fine. So let's see. Dennis has a very, very long essay about chapter 21. The essay says, why didn't the Torah abolish slavery? And he said, God's law gave the first law God gave the Israelites after giving them the 10 Commandments concerns the proper treatment of slaves. Just as the 10 Commandments begins with God's declaration, he took the Israelites out of Egypt, out of the house of slaves. God begins this additional set of laws with slavery, as if to say to the Israelites, though you will be allowed an institution called slavery, it cannot be anything like what you experienced in Egypt. Nevertheless, the fact the Torah does not entirely abolish the institution of slavery is troubling. Since it is nearly universal and agreed today, slavery is inherently evil. How could a document claiming to be a moral guide, which moreover claim it is a divine origin, not prohibit slavery? Here's several reasons. First, the Torah did indeed ban the type of slavery modern people think of when they picture slavery: kidnapping free human beings and selling them for use as slaves. As explained regarding the eighth commandment, do not steal, the commandment was understood from its inception as first and foremost prohibiting stealing human beings. And as if that were not enough, verse 16 in this chapter makes kidnapping of any person, Israelite or non Israelite, for the purposes of enslavement a capital crime. It is therefore not true to say that the Bible did not ban slavery. What is true is the Torah did not ban every form of slavery. I'm going to jump down. Second, given the entrenched, it was in every human society. Had the Torah banned every form of slavery, it is quite likely many Israelites would have simply opted out of the Torah system entirely. To provide an analogy, had the founders of the United States banned slavery and at the outset, something many of them wish to do, there would never have been a United States of America. The Southern colonies would never have joined the Union. Similarly, the Israelites opted out of the Torah legal system over the issues of slavery. That would have ended ethical monotheism. Nor would a complete ban have necessarily been a morally uh, unambiguous achievement. Most of the slavery discussed in the Torah is indentured servitude, wherein a person worked off a debt over a set period, or a destitute found room and board and working for no pay. Again, the American parallels is morally clarifying between one half and one third of the white immigrants of the British colonies between the Puritan migration of the 1630s and the Revolution came under indentures. The reason was indentured servitude was the only way to abject poverty for vast numbers of people, and they were Europeans in the 17th and 18th century, not Middle Easterners in the late Bronze Age 3,000 years ago. Third, in the following discussion, with the exception of verse 21 and 26, slavery refers to the institution of indentured servitude, wherein people sell themselves into slavery in order to pay off debts, either the debt they do not have the funds to repay, or the debts incurred as a result of criminal activity, such as a thief who lacks the means to pay back what he has stolen. See example, Exodus 22, verse 2 and 6. So, and then he says here, the Hebrew says, if, not when, you acquire a slave. The Torah does not encourage, let alone require Israelites to own slaves. It simply states that if they do, these laws must be obeyed. So, and then and then when we're talking about if a servant wants to stay with his master, verse 21 verse 6, it says, in the context, the word Elohim, which normally means God, refers to a local judge who are thought to do God's work. This is not the only example used of Elohim in the Torah. So you have to bring him before a judge, and he has to hear the case, and then you must mark him by piercing his ear. So, to me, so I mean, I can already see that this episode is really going to be heavy on slavery, but pretty much Exodus 21 is really talking about paying debts, being responsible. You know, being because they even talked about fighting. Like if you are to fight someone and they die, you're held liable. And the way that I'm looking at this is when they talk about fighting, I believe that they're talking about if you're having a disagreement, If you come to violence over a disagreement, yes, you should be held responsible. Now, if you come to violence because you are protecting your own, that is a little bit different. Because and the reason why I say that is referring back to Genesis. If people quarreled and one strikes another with a stone or his fist and the other does not die but lies in bed. So to me, when they say with a stone, that echoes back to the quarrel between Cain and Abel. So if you are to kill your kinsman, your brother under God, your brother in the Torah, your brother in the covenant, and you kill them, or any man for that matter, you are to be held responsible. If he rises again and walks around with his staff, meaning crutches or whatever, then the one who struck him will be cleared, but he must pay for the losses of his time and help him to be thoroughly healed. So um, that means, say, me and David. That's my brother. I love him to death. Me and David have fought. That over 20 years of us knowing each other, we've thrown hands before. So let's just say, as an adult, now that we're working adults, we got homes, we got women, and all this other stuff. Let's just say, if him and I were to fight, and let's just say I was to best him, and he gets hurt, and he has to call out of work, and all this other stuff, I am to take care of him. So, and that's a very, very big thing, especially in today's culture, because it seems like men today cannot have disagreements, come to blows, and respect each other. Because the way that I grew up, I if we throw hands, and then after that, it's done. Especially if no one's hurt, you fight, you get it out, and then, hey, either you dap each other up, and then y'all stay out of each other's way, but then you always show each other respect afterwards. Because you've come to blows, you come to a physical altercation and a physical means to resolve a dispute. Now, let's just say, if the Bible takes it a step further, you got to take responsibility for your actions. So if you come to blows with another man, it is your responsibility to take care of him. It is your responsibility to make sure that he becomes healed, that he is not left destitute. Because in those times, if you had to work to live. Nowadays, people just want to live on government assistance, they want to live on government checks, or they want to live this decadent lifestyle. And now it's the government has pretty much put it upon they pretty much forced us to take care of one another, you know, or you get sent to prison. But to me, that is more honorable, because and that really makes you more mindful when you're having disagreements with people. Because if you really don't like someone, why would you waste your time fighting with them? Because that means you're gonna have to take care of them when they got to call out of work, when they got to do, when they're in the hospital, when they're laid up, their arms broken, leg broken, ribs bruised, or whatever. You got to take care of them. So that means you're taking time away from your life to tend to someone that you've actually had an issue with. So you cannot escape responsibility, and this is for men. Of course, the rules of men apply to women as well, but this is more so on men because men are more violent than women. I don't know about today, but because these women are just as, if not more violent than men. But and so that to me, like, you got to take responsibility for your actions. And it also speaks to the fact that your actions have consequences, whether you are involved or not. Because let's see if I can find it here, because they were talking about the ox. Let me see. So if an ox gores a man or a woman so that they die, the ox must surely be stoned, and the meat is not to be eaten. But the owner of the ox will be cleared. So that means once you're out of an ox now, and oxes are very expensive. Even today, you can't just go to Walmart and buy an ox. So if the ox was given to goring in times past, and a warning has been given to the owner, that means you're aware of it. Yet he has not kept it pent up, and it has killed a man or a woman, then the ox must be stoned, and the owner must also be put to death. That means you are also complicit. You are also complicit because you know. Of course, we all know animals are animals. They attack, they charge, especially bulls, they do all these things. So that means we understand. We come into the understanding that these animals are dangerous and that we are responsible for them. But if the fact that we already know that, but now it takes it up a notch. If you know that your ox has already killed someone and it has not been stoned, and you buy it and you're aware of this, or if the ox has gored someone, hurt someone, maimed someone, or whatever, and you're aware of this and you bought it and you did not take the proper precautions to put safety measures in place, you are responsible. You are equally as complicit as that ox, and an animal. You are equally as complicit because you've known about it. You are aware of it. Now, yet it is not kept pent up. The ox must be stoned, and the owner must be put to death. Instead, a ransom is placed on him, and then he pays for redemption for his life, whatever is demanded. So that means, hey, if you don't want to die because of this animal, you can put a ransom for yourself. Whether it has gored a son or daughter, the same rules apply. If it has gored a male and female servant, you must pay 30 shekels of silver to its master, and the ox must be stoned. So either way, you're coming out of pocket. You are going to take a financial hit. There's no way out of it. There's no way you're not going to get financially hit for this. And that's what taking responsibility means. And to a further point, let's see. If men fight and hit a pregnant woman so that her child is born early, yet no harm follows, the one who hits her is to be strictly fined according to what the woman's husband demands of him. He must pay as the judges determine. But if any harm follows, then you are to penalize life for life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So then we get into yeah, so that even talks about, women. That talks about, like, if my wife is pregnant and someone was to strike my wife and cause my child to miscarry, or or cause my child to be born prematurely, oh, I got to fine you. I mean, now I can't I mean, if you cause my child to be miscarried, oh, trust me, you got bigger problems on your hands than to be fine. But then again, I'm just human. So it says right here, the man who strikes him notwithstanding to be punished and put the for his property, yada yada yada. So, and then they even talked about women. If you buy a female, if you buy a young girl or whatever, and you either betroth her to your son or you marry her yourself, you still got to treat her with respect. You have to treat her like she's your own daughter. Again, like, so where when I hear people talk about, oh, here we go. Let me backtrack for a second. Whoever strikes a man so that he dies must surely be put to death. But if he did not hunt him down, yet God caused it to happen, then I will appoint you a place where you may run. This is also talking about Cain. If a man presumes to kill his neighbor with craftiness, you are to take him from the altar and put him to death. So that means if you are out here trying to, and then what it means by craftiness, that means if you're intentionally trying to kill someone and it gets out, you are to be put to death. You are to be removed. You do not collect $200. You do not pass go. You don't go straight to jail. You get put to death. I really think that in today's society, if we really had these laws like this, because it seems like America has become so squeamish with the death penalty. Now, I'm not saying that to sound like a bloodthirsty, blood hungry, type of person. And yes, I'm probably going to have some people in my comment section talking about, oh, well, you're pro-life. Yes, I am. I am pro-life because a child is innocent. An unborn child is innocent, and the unborn child did not ask to be here. You acted on your own recognizance, and you partake in activities that are the only means, God notwithstanding, the only way that human to human we can, like, a child can be born. But if God decides that He wants to put a child in that womb, which we've seen before, that's something completely different. But to me, killing a child, because it, like I said, and when I talked about abortion before, abortion is you're intentionally killing someone. And to me, like, that's it's disgusting. In a modern day, again, I got a public school education. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but at least I understood and I was taught that the only way you can have a baby outside of God is to lay down with a man or lay down with a woman, opposites, opposite sexes. If you're a man, you lay down with a woman. If you're a woman, you lay down with a man, because that's the only way. Um, and you put a penis into a vagina, and you know, of course, there's some other factors that come into play. She has to be ovulating and all this other stuff, yada yada yada. You have to intercourse. You have to engage in intercourse or coitus. I like that word, coitus. You have to engage in coitus. Um, Once you engage in coitus, you are willingly participating. Now, of course, rape and all this other stuff, but you are intentionally engaging in sex, and sex is the only way to produce a child. So you can't just out here and kill a child because it's inconvenient. Trust me, the people back then, they're living in harsher conditions than what we are today. And we see that we have all these generations of people. So the fact that your inconvenience is being inconvenienced, like your life is being inconvenienced, to me is a nothing burger. Either you don't have sex and just go about your life if you don't want to have kids, or if you want to continue doing what you're doing and rock out with your schlong out, or then hey, wrap it up. Because I mean, I can't sit here and tell you to do something. We're all grown human beings. You're going to do with it what you want to do. But use a condom, use plan B, use contraceptives, and or if you just don't want kids at all, just go get snipped. I mean, that's one surefire way of doing it, or just not have sex. So, but this whole episode, this whole chapter is about responsibility. It is, you're taking responsibility for your slaves. You're taking ultimately, you're taking responsibility for your actions. And one verse that I did not talk, because this chapter is very wordy. Uh, this one specifically talks about striking his father or his mother, surely put him to death. To me, like, that is whoo. And then it says right here, whoever curses his father or his mother surely be put to death. See, and in today's society, we have people have broken relationships with their parents. People have, and of course, they're talking about putting curses, like you're wishing death upon your parents. You're doing witchcraft on your parents. It's not just saying, okay, you've had an argument, you've what we call cursing. Well, you cussed out your parents like, oh, F you, mom, or screw you, dad, and all this other stuff. We're not talking about that. We're talking about actual cursing. You're committing witchcraft against your parents. And there's people out there who do that. But also, because I'm not one of those people, and I'm pretty sure someone's going to disagree with me. I'm not one of those people that think curse words are bad. I cuss like a Marine. I do. In my own personal time, I cuss with a Marine, like a Marine, because I am one. That's not an excuse. That's just who I am. That's how I choose to express myself. And me understanding words have meaning and words have a history. So I mean, saying F and B and all this other stuff, the only time I don't curse is when a Bible is present. is when a Bible is open in my presence. Because to me, I look at that as I don't want to profane in front of God. Now, some people are like, oh, well, that's a double standard, yada yada. Okay, that's just me. That's how I choose to express myself because I don't like really cursing in front of my parents. That's how I was raised. It's a respect thing. I don't curse in front of my parents, but my dad I do because he allows me to. But and that's how we talk to each other like men now. But I still monitor what I say, but we're not talking about cursing and using those specific colorful words. We're talking about actual cursing. You're actually putting a curse on your parents. You're putting a curse on them. So one, witchcraft is a big no-no. Big no-no in the Bible. But then they talk about striking. I've seen, man, you can go on World Star Hip Hop. You can go on the internet. You can find fathers fighting sons. You can find mothers fighting daughters, vice versa. To me, it was, I would never, and trust me, me and my dad have fist fought before. It was more like, me defending myself, but it's, you there's certain behaviors that should not be tolerated. And a person that can curse their parents, a person that can be violent towards their parents, is a person that cannot be trusted. Is a person now, granted, there are some horrible like people out there. There are some horrible parents out there. There are parents that who should not be parents at all. But at the same time, that does not justify, and my relationship with my parents wasn't always a great. Trust me, I was a very difficult teenager. Like most teenagers, I was very difficult. I have a mind of my own, and I'm type A. My parents are type A. Both of them are type A, and sometimes we clash. We clash because I'm very independent. I still love my parents. I still respect my parents, but just know, like most teenagers, I did not. Things weren't always kosher between us. Just and not to get into details. But most people have those kind of outcomes with their parents. But I would never, 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 never wish death upon my parents. Now, probably when I was getting that behind whooped, I was like, man, I wish he would just go away. But even still, that's not right, though. But at the same time, it's not right for a parent to cause a child to anger. It is not right for a parent to abuse a child. Now, that's not to say my parents abuse me, but I'm just saying that it's we got to be careful about how we interact with each other, but more importantly, our children, because kids just don't go out here cursing their parents. Kids just don't go out here fighting their parents. It's also incumbent on the parent to be the example, to be respectable in front of their child. Give your child something to respect. Now, if your child just wants to be an a-hole and just disobey and just not be, you got to let them go. And the same with parents, same with kids to parents, because trust me, like it's definitely something like Zoe said, when people see you, they should see, they should, even though if your parents are horrible, they should be able to say, wow, your parents did a really good job raising you, even though they probably didn't. The easiest way that I would tell someone, because I've had people really tell me about their childhoods, their upbringings, their relationship with their parents, their relationship with their caregivers. Um, I would say, look, if you and that person just cannot get along, the way to honor them is to not be around them. The way to honor them is to be away. And for a time that was me. There was a time in my life where my mother and I, we just could not agree. We could not get along. We could not see eye to eye. And then, in my mother's house, and rightfully so, she says, "Look, this is my house. These are my rules. If you don't want to respect them, and if you don't want to abide by them, you got to bounce." Okay. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, "Bet, bye." And it's a shame that it came to that, but it's like I went to the military and I did not see my mother for 4 years. I did not. And now we have a better relationship now than we did then. But I was also, hindsight 2020, I was a difficult teenager. I was in that phase of life where I'm just coming out of high school, I'm coming into manhood, but I'm not a man yet. I'm still living at home in my parents, eating my parents' food, sleeping in my parents' bed, but wanting my independence, but not knowing how to do it, not knowing how to go out there and get it. So, of course, I said, you know what? I'll show you better than I can tell you. I don't need you. And I went out and I went out on my own. I made mistakes. I've been broke. I've been homeless. I've been all those other things. You know, slept on couches. I've slept in my car. I've rented rooms in bed bug infested apartments. So yeah, but now I'm here now. I can stand on my own 2 feet as a man. And case in point, like again, but those rules, same rules apply. My parents can't just come into my house, even though they're my parents. My parents cannot come into my house and disrespect me. You can say, "Oh, I'm your father or I'm your mother. You got to do what I say." Well, I'm like, well, this a is is Casa Edmo. This is mine. Respect me in my house. I'm the Lord of my house. I'm the rightful king and priest of this domain. Respect me in mine, or you can go back to yours. Simple as that. And remember, Genesis also says you are to leave your father and your mother, and you are to cleave to your wife. So again, if you are to leave your father and your mother and you're to cleave to your wife, why are you coming to blows on your parents? Why are you coming? Why are you getting to a point where you have to curse your parents? And it's it's difficult times right now because I understand, a lot of us have teenage parents. A lot of us have parents who weren't taught much of anything. You know, we are in a we are living in generational curses. So it's definitely very difficult to act in a way when you weren't taught a certain way. But that's why God is the heavenly Father of all of us. Yahovah, I'm trying to break myself out of saying God, but Yahovah is the Father of us all. And especially if you are, and I'm verbal processing right now. It also said in the Ten Commandments that God talks about those who he will curse those three and fourth generations for those who hate him. Again, this law also applies. If you are to curse your father and your mother, that also includes God. If you are to curse God, you are to be put to death. And that means, like, that doesn't mean, okay, we're all going to die. No, that means the second death. The first death is the bodily death. The second death is the eternal death. That you ain't coming back when Jerusalem comes, when the new Jerusalem comes. You ain't coming back. You're going into the dark abyss and you will cease to be a fart's memory. You will no longer be. Your name will be blotted out of the book of life forever. So that's also what they're talking about. And then when they talk about anyone who strikes his father or his mother must surely be put to death. That means if you're trying to attack God, if you are trying to attack God, you will be put to death. The second death. See, and that's one thing that I really like about what I'm learning about the Bible is, yeah, we have multi-layer meanings. We have meanings within meanings within meanings. So yeah, on the surface it says one thing, and yes, that holds true. But then we also have another layer under that, which also holds true. So anyone who strikes his father or his mother must surely be put to death. Anyone who curses his father and his mother must surely be put to death. So it behooves of us as millennials, because we are now the generation. The baby boomers are retiring. Gen X is about baby boomers are like on the way out. Gen X is on the cusp of retiring. They are about to they're about to be they are the grandparents and the great grandparents now, or the grandparents. The millennials, we are the 30-40 year olds now. We are supposed to be the wise and ready ones, but we're not. We're still in this perpetual stage of adolescence, and we got a handicap on us. And we're not playing, at full force right now, because a lot of us weren't taught right. We weren't led right. We weren't mentored right. We weren't groomed right. So now we got to do extra work to 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 come to the playing field. And the first things first, and what I'm seeing is and I'm a part of this. You have a lot of people coming back to God. You have a lot of people cracking open their Bibles there saying, "Hey, something's not right. Something doesn't make sense. What's going on?" And they're reading for the first time in their lives. But now it's also on us to be the change. We got to parent differently. We got to love differently. We got to marry differently. We got to just move differently altogether, especially if we're cracking open these scriptures. We got, as men especially, we got to take responsibility for everything. We got to take responsibility for our actions. We got to take responsibility for our servants, for our wives, for our children, for our oxens. We got to take responsibility for everything that is ours. Because if you don't, you'll be held responsible. All right. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in for another Bible episode. I apologize for this episode going long. I apologize for my lackluster energy right now. Like I said, I'm fasting. Hopefully, depending on what I decide, if I'm going to be fasting next week as well. But it's definitely been a humbling experience. But I'll see you guys next time, please. As I say, I don't like selling anything on the struggle day. But if you guys want to please support us, go visit our friends, go visit them, show them your love and your support. And if you guys want to donate, hey, it's on you. I'm not going to ask you to. All this, y'all know where to get it. So until then, I will see you guys next time. Peace out.